Bitcoin is close to becoming worthless.
Let's go. Now, what's the Bitcoin?
Bitcoin's like rat poison.
Yeah. Oh,
The greatest scam in history.
let's get it.
Bitcoin will go to fucking zero.
Yeah.
Alright, you ungovernable misfits. I'm your host, Max. Everybody knows that Bitcoin is useless, worthless, and doomed to fail. But what if everyone's wrong? What if it's the system that is doomed to fail? Join me as I speak to some of the brightest people in the space and slither to the deepest, darkest depths of the Bitcoin rabbit hole. Welcome back. I had the pleasure of sitting down with Charles Mackenzie from BTC Racing. It was really cool to hear what these guys are doing, working with El Salvador and helping spread Bitcoin's message. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I think that there's a unique opportunity here to raise awareness of Bitcoin around the world. As well as talking racing, we talked about the crash in 2008 and what that meant for his family. There's a reason they found Bitcoin, and I'm very glad they have. If after listening to this you think that you could help raise awareness or help push this project forward, you can reach out to them or to me, and I'd really appreciate any help with it. I also like to thank everyone who has been reaching out to me, asking questions, giving feedback on the website, buying the merch, and doing the boost on the Podcasting 2.0 apps. All of it really helps the show, and I really do appreciate it. I'd also like to do a quick shout out to my sponsors. I'd like to thank Fast Bitcoins for supporting this show. It's coming up to about 6 months now, and they've been awesome. If you are going to use an exchange, first of all, you want to make sure that, as we discuss in this podcast, you take those sats off exchange. It's really important, and this is something that Fast Bitcoins push so hard. They don't want to custody your sats, they want you to hold your keys. That's what Bitcoin's all about, and I love that this is their focus. They also have an incredible team, and they are always at the forefront. So check them out at fastbitcoins.com. I'd also like to thank Zach and everyone at Foundation Devices for supporting this show, and also for making the best hardware out there. It's not only gorgeous looking, but it's so simple to use. They're also fully open source, which matters. We wouldn't have Bitcoin without it. We wouldn't be where we are without it. What I really like about this team is they are bringing cypherpunk tools to fuckwits like me. They're making it so accessible. It's so important that we do it, but not everyone feels like they can, myself included. They even have the option, if you want a little bit of hand-holding, to jump on a call with Bitcoin Q&A, and he will walk you through step by step how to set this up in the most secure way possible. If you haven't already checked them out, go to foundationdevices.com, and if you do decide to buy one of these, you can use the code BITBYBIT. That will give you an additional $10 off. You can also reach out to me and ask any questions before buying, and I'll be happy to run through my experience using a passport. I really hope you enjoy the show. Please reach out if you have any questions, and I'd really appreciate any more feedback on the website. If you haven't checked it out yet, it's ungovernablemisfits.com. Enjoy the show. Charles, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. Thanks so much for having me, man.
It's an absolute pleasure. Absolutely loving to see what you guys are doing and shining a light on Bitcoin and El Salvador, and then mixing it in with probably the coolest sport around, motor racing. So yeah, I'm hyped to speak to you, mate.
Yeah, no, it's been crazy actually, and it's a nice way for someone who's not got a technical background to actually start being able to contribute to Bitcoin. So yeah, I'm really, because I studied biology and genetics, no computer background, so I'm really happy that we can be involved in some way.
So biology and genetics, how did that bring you to motor racing and to Bitcoin?
Yeah, that's a good question. My dad's always been like he's collected vintage cars and things, but he's always been a motorsport fan. So when I was 8 years old, we started off with go-karting, and but then kind of had to stop with the racing passion because uni got in the way. And I feel like, I don't know, how do I explain it? Like, I kind of wasted my time at uni, and I started feeling like that after I discovered Bitcoin. Because I was thinking, why am I spending all this time learning this stuff when I could just be, working a modest job and stacking Bitcoin for the long term? And eventually you obviously benefit from the compound interest and the average gain of about 200% a year, isn't it? So I was at a crossroads a bit. But yeah, the reason we actually got into it was because in 2008, the recession actually kind of wiped out my family. My mum used to run 3 businesses, which were in the restaurant industry. And when the recession came along, she lost all of them. So we ended up in a precarious financial position. And then 2020 came along, and my mum was like, she called a family meeting, basically said, look guys, we've got 4 years until our mortgage is due on the family house. It's 6 figures and we need to do something. So everyone in the family kind of made suggestions and stuff. And I was the one who kind of found Bitcoin. But it was actually a documentary about gold and a discussion about economics that we learnt about in that YouTube documentary that I found. But then I think when you start learning about gold, Bitcoin always creeps in. And to us, that just felt easier and superior and technologically advanced. So we went with that. And it's been the best decision we ever made, I think, as a family. We've all been gifted this financial literacy.
It's amazing as well because 2008 wiped your family out. 2008 is the reason that Bitcoin's here. And so, what happened there, I mean, it was inevitably going to happen, whether it's 2008, 2009, 2010, whenever that was going to happen, it had to. But, this is what made Satoshi say, no, fuck this. This is disgusting. Because it is disgusting. I mean, people work their whole lives. People save. They do as they're told. Like you said, you go to uni, you tick that box, you go into a job, you get a mortgage, you pay that down, and people just hope that at some point they can retire and live free for a few years. That's the hope. And that's torn away from people because of greed and stupidity. And it's fucking disgusting. And, that's why a lot of people are drawn to Bitcoin. I'm really happy to hear that your family are on board and that you found it, because it's not, although like we all shill hard and we all push, it's really hard for people to break through and understand what Bitcoin is and why it's here and why it matters. And sometimes it takes a massive loss or major issues like you guys have gone through to actually understand and go, oh, okay, there's something wrong with this system and we need something new, and then be open to it. A lot of people just shut it down.
Yeah, I agree. I think, people like Warren Buffett and Andrew Bailey and these people involved in the original system, they don't need Bitcoin or care about it because they're doing so well in the current one and it works in their favor because they kind of rule it at the top. And it's kind of the same situation for even lots of kind of normies, we call them. Getting along with their day-to-day jobs and covering the mortgage every month and having money left over to go and enjoy some consumerism and wasting their money on pointless crap. They're also happy. You do have to. You're right. I think you do have to get wiped out by the system to realize that there's something really wrong going on, and it's not a nice thing to have to go through. But I do think it's going to take that for a lot more people to start coming on board.
Yes, I agree. For many years, like I've been discussing, like when I first got involved with Bitcoin, it was just me and one other mate who were like really interested in it, and like no one would talk to us about it. And we always used to just sit down and go, I don't understand why no one is thinking about this. Like, what has to happen? And we came to the realization that people have got to lose everything. People have got to be scared. People have got to need the change, especially in the West. Like, it's different in El Salvador and some other countries that have issues with their currency and are being stolen from, basically, by the exportation of the inflation from the United States. And so they're seeing it first. But, normal everyday people who have got a relatively okay job and pretty good lives in the UK, they're just not going to see it. And they are going to get wiped out because what's happening now cannot continue. All we can do is try and educate people, try and raise awareness, try and do podcasts like what you're doing with the racing, do whatever you can. And if people won't listen, there's nothing more that really can be done. But I was really excited to see what you guys are doing, because this is it brings an edge of cool to the Bitcoin space. I can't think that any person is not going to look at this and be like, oh fuck, this is pretty cool. Like, what is this Bitcoin thing? What has been the response so far in the racing sort of community and from fans and people who are seeing these stickers on the sides of the cars? Are you getting people being orange pilled?
So it's crazy. Like, to be, when we used to run as a normal race team without having Bitcoin on the side, there was virtually no interest. And now, we've got a country that's kind of has given us permission to display their flag, and they've supported us on social media. Our Twitter page has been growing quite quickly. It's now over 1,000, which is something in my family obviously we've never had, and with our motorsport history as well. In order to get sponsorships, you actually need to have a high following and stuff. So, even though we've tried, we've never managed to increase our following and stuff. But now we've kind of tapped into this community. There's a lot going on. But in terms of the response at the racetracks, I think people kind of keep to themselves there. I know we need a way kind of to get people more interested by it. And actually, at our last race, I don't know if you've heard of the Pioneer program, but I
haven't actually. No.
Oh yeah, it's basically this. It's on an app called Luno, where you get given a budget of about £500 per month, and you can give people £10 increments of Bitcoin for free, and they literally don't have to do anything on the app. They don't have to buy anything. They can literally just get £10, and that's it.
Okay.
So moving forwards at the races, we're going to be able to give people actual Bitcoin without them having to, commit to doing anything. So I think that's going to really help us pushing the word out more.
Interesting.
But its visual impact is definitely massive, because we've now decorated a whole HGV Arctic lorry, and for the races, we've got 5,000 miles of travelling across the UK to get to all the various tracks. And I just think it's going to get people to start thinking about it. Because in the UK, I think we had all the advertisements banned that recently came out. Like Papa John's did an advertisement when they were giving away £10 of Bitcoin for people who ordered a certain combo deal or something. And there was also the London Underground as well, which was another app that was saying if you're seeing Bitcoin on the underground, you should probably be buying. And they keep cracking down on them. But yeah, with our race team, I don't think they can come for us in that way, because we're not trying to sell anything.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you say that, because a very good friend of mine is involved in a lot of the marketing stuff for a lot of the British companies, Bitcoin companies. He said it was an absolute fucking nightmare to get anything done. And basically they were like hitmen just coming for the companies. Whatever they would do, they would try and bring it down. And they had like a certain team assigned specifically to stop anything Bitcoin related. And it's so amazing, because it's like, oh, we're protecting the consumer. Well, okay, if you're protecting the consumer and you're so worried about something that you perceive to be high risk, even though it's actually not, and you can actually look and verify that it's not high risk, why are you so worried about this and you're not worried about gambling sites?
Yeah.
Why are they allowed? Do you know what I mean? It's like there's no logical consistency. It is so obvious that this is just an attack on something because it threatens their ability to control, and it really pisses me off. So that's why, like you said, you're not trying to sell anything. You're just saying, here's Bitcoin, you know, and people are then able to get it for free. They can ask the questions, and it just gets people thinking. And they've just got it, like you said, like if you're going past a massive Arctic lorry and it says Bitcoin down the side, you know, oh yeah, what is that thing? Like, you know, it might just spur someone to have a look. And as you know, anyone who spends any time and can be bothered can work out that this thing is incredible.
Exactly. And there's other things like buy now, pay later. That's like, and gambling as well. And there's all these terrible things that they're pushing to kind of keep their system alive, and you know, the GDP rising, and that's kind of what buy now, pay later is. But that gets people absolutely shafted. Like, you can get financially wrecked by not paying back, you know, all the interest that comes from buy now, pay later schemes, and we are seeing that people are getting absolutely wrecked by those, and like you say, gambling or betting on horse racing and stuff. But we can't invest in Bitcoin. It does make no sense at all.
You can go and take your paycheck and put it straight on 100-to-1 bet, no questions asked, no protection at all, and you can go and do that with every single paycheck that you've ever had, and then you can go and borrow at stupid rates to go and do it again, and everyone's happy with that. You can't go and invest in the best money ever. A lot of people in my family actually everyone in my family calls me a conspiracy theorist and like a complete nut job. But they're like, you're a lunatic. But I don't know how you can see it any other way when like you understand what Bitcoin is. You have to understand that they're not protecting people. Like they don't give a fuck about people. They really don't. It's really about just how do we control them? How do we keep this massive Ponzi scheme going until we wipe them all out again, and then we'll sweep up all their assets really cheap, and I don't care what happens to them. It is, like I said before, it is disgusting. It really makes me feel sick, these people.
Yeah, no, I've literally am just trying to opt out completely. Like, my philosophy now is to do the exact opposite of what any government tells me to do, and it's working quite well.
It will.
And people think I'm absolutely nuts. In terms of my family, though, my dad's involved now. My mum is. My sister, her 2 children are now saving in Bitcoin, and my grandparents. But I don't think my grandparents, it's weird actually, because obviously they've been in front of the TV screen for the longest out of all of us, and are still kind of, you know, following the mainstream topics of interest like COVID, Ukraine, and probably inevitably monkeypox next. So yeah, in a way they kind of think I'm a bit nuts, and my dad as well. He's on that same level, which is nice because he's 70 years old. He is a literal boomer, but he hates the system as well, and he actually feels upset that he was a part of it, because obviously it's horrible for his children to have to be put into this absolute like horrifying system, and to try and make our way through life where everything's really expensive, the opportunities aren't as good anymore. You know, you could literally have 100 grand back in the day and get 10% interest in the bank and become a millionaire in about 10 or 20 years and live a nice, happy retirement. But now you get 0.001%. You're not taught about financial literacy or investing or saving. You're just kind of forced to spend and spend. And they facilitate that with the, what's it called, buy now, pay later stuff, because they need their GDP to keep going up infinitely, and it destroys
and these housing schemes.
Yeah,
the housing schemes worry me. Like it sounds like we're a similar sort of age, and my previous business was property, And I've got completely out of it because I'm like, digital
Wow.
property is obviously the way to go. It's a fucking, there's going to be big problems coming. But quite often, like friends of mine who hadn't yet bought will come to me and they're like, oh yeah, we're finally getting on the ladder and there's this amazing deal in this new housing development. And, we only have to put down 5% and we can get this house. And I'm like, you do know, like, what you're buying is debt. Like you're buying something which is generally built really fucking poorly. Like the new builds, often you go around, there's no proper insulation in them. They're ugly. The actual build quality is very, very low. And what you own is 5% of an asset that is massively overpriced. Like this thing can half, or it should at least half, because all you're buying is debt. And there's this thing in the UK, like everyone's just like, you need to get on the ladder. Property will go up forever. It's like this ingrained, I don't know what it is. It's different to the rest of Europe. Like a lot of France and places like that, they'll rent, they're fine with that. But it's this feeling that property will go up forever. And they believe that there is real value there. And all it is just a way to create more debt, more money in the system, and then whack it into either stocks or property. My concern is like, what happens a few years down the line when these people who have saved every single penny, everything that they possibly can to put that 5% down with mortgage rates low, what if they change? Then what?
Exactly. Well, that's kind of exactly what happened to my mum when she had I think it was in the 80s or 70s when she got her first flat, and the interest rates just went up so high that she couldn't, literally just had to lose the flat. And that's the problem. They can just change it. You don't, they sent us a letter recently saying your interest rate's changing, and they don't ask you if that's okay. They just tell you.
It is, yeah.
Whilst food prices are up, fuel prices are up, interest rates on the mortgage are up, and like they don't give you a choice or say sorry. They just say this is how it is now. And yeah, it can get to the point where it completely wipes people out. And I really don't understand it. It doesn't seem sustainable at all. But there is part of me that hasn't got on the property ladder yet because of uni and all that debt and stuff. But obviously Bitcoin's helped me a lot. So I am in a position where I can consider putting down a deposit, because one part of me feels like property does seem to go up forever and ever. And when you see, usually if I meet anyone who's very wealthy, they always have like a big property portfolio. But I just, they can artificially keep it going probably, but in the long term, it doesn't feel right at all. So now I don't know what the hell to do.
Yeah, it's a Ponzi scheme. I mean, literally, it is a Ponzi scheme. So, yeah, it could keep going up. They could do it for another few years. They could maybe do it for a decade, but it has to come crashing down at some point. There is no real value. Like, around here in the southeast, a 2.5 bedroom home with no garage and no driveway is not actually worth £500,000. It's not actually worth that. Like, these properties were built for 10 grand. This is like back in the day, they're built for like 10 grand. That's been paid off a long time ago. It gets cheaper and cheaper to build houses over time because technology gets better. They should be cheaper, not more expensive. And it's not down to that there's a lack of supply. It's down to the fact that there's a load of money creation. And if you just track how many mortgages are written, well, that's how much it goes up by. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. And then you've got this other asset, which is Bitcoin, which, like you said, it's going up 200% a year. It's actually finite. And you don't have all the risk that's associated because, like you're saying with what happened to your mum, you're buying into a system and playing a game that you have no control over, and you don't actually get told the rules. They say like, oh, these are the sort of the rules, but we might change them whenever we want, whenever it sort of suits us. And you're like, well, can you just tell me the rules so that I know, so that I can work out how I play? No, just sort of do it a bit blindfolded. We'll just either fuck you up or you do well, but it's a bit of luck, really. Just roll the dice. Whereas with Bitcoin, it's like, you know what you're getting into. You understand it. It's all clear. It's all there. And so to me, as someone who's messed around with property for half my life, I don't want to touch it anymore. Partly because I think it's disgusting what's happened to everyone, and partly just because I don't think it's as good as an investment as Bitcoin. So I've sold everything. I'm just like, well, I'll just hold Bitcoin. And if property halves, I might go, do you know what? Maybe we buy a family home. But until then, I'll rent.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what my plan is. And no, that was really well put, by the way. That's really very.
That's what I rant.
Yeah,
I rant to the family about.
No, what I would say is it is basically a Ponzi scheme, because you need new buyers to be coming in all the time, and that's why they changed these mortgages to be like 5% down. It's going to have to be 2.5% down, because eventually it's going to price out all the new young buyers like myself and everyone else coming out of uni and start finding their way in life. Even once they get down mortgage rates to like 1% deposits, there's not much further you can go, because it's going to be so expensive that eventually, even if you lower the deposit amounts, eventually they're not going to be able to afford them. So
you can go negative.
Well, there you go. That just seems weird to me.
Like you can go negative, but obviously, I think that's going to be a bit more of, if we go there, then that's going to be a bit more of an awakening. And like you rightly said, who's buying them? The people who are now earning the money or going into the workforce are like our sort of age. They've come out of uni or been out of uni for 5 years, 10 years. They're not able, most of them, to buy the properties they want to be buying. And then you've got the boomers who are slowly dying off. Where are they going to get this money from? Like, who's actually going to be buying these properties at these values? Because the other reason that people were buying them was they were coming out of their retirement funds and they were saying, well, where can we put this money? Where's safe? So they were buying properties and then doing buy-to-lets. And then the buy-to-lets, they changed all the rules and all the taxes and everything else. And being a landlord is an absolute fucking disaster. It is the worst, most stressful. People like make it out like, oh yeah, you just buy the properties and then you get your yield and that's nice, and then you just retire and you sit on a fucking beach. And that is not true at all. It is a nightmare. The amount of times you try and get people out because they won't pay, and then you can't get them out, and then you're in courts for 6 months or a year. When the people don't pay, you still got to pay your mortgage, and they've got all these protections and all these rights and everything else. And honestly, it is not a walk in the park. So once people have done it for a little bit of time, they've gone, fucking hell, that's hard work to earn realistically like 3% or 4%, like when all's said and done. Why am I doing that when there's Bitcoin that's 200%? I haven't got to do anything.
Yeah, literally. It's mental. I actually did a good thing yesterday and removed all my Bitcoin from Celsius.
Well done.
Yeah, you literally, you can just keep it sat in this little hardware wallet and do nothing. But yeah, like you said, there's a good show in the UK called Can't Pay, We'll Take It Away. And you see that often where they, the bailiffs turn up on behalf of the landlords and they enter these absolutely wrecked houses. And you can't help but feel sorry for them. Yeah, it must be incredibly stressful, and now to not know where the market's going to go, and for it to be looking unsustainable. What should people be investing in? And it's definitely Bitcoin, in our opinion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, talk me through, it sounds like basically you have saved your family in the long run, because I'm so confident on Bitcoin. I think that what you've done is you've shown your family this asset, which is the best asset in the world. It's the best money ever. And this is going to be generational wealth that's created because of what you've done. How did that spread then from you saying, look, guys, there's this thing, Bitcoin. I think it's really cool. They've all gone, oh, fucking hell, yeah, you're right, mate. Let's buy some of that. How's that then gone to, let's have this racing team, let's brand these cars, there's a few guys there who are racing with you? Like, how has it spread to all these people, and who's the most nutty orange pilled? Is it you? Is it your dad? Is it someone else? Or are you all just complete psychopath Bitcoiners now? Obviously the longer you own Bitcoin, the more you fall down the kind of
the rabbit hole, isn't it, where you learn about all the messed up things going on in the world. And fractional reserve banking was one thing I found particularly offensive, because you think you're being a good student, you're saving money in the bank, but actually the bank's using that money to cause more inflation, and you're actually getting poorer for saving. So I just hated that. But I showed my family this documentary about money, and was actually a bit surprised at my parents for not knowing any of this stuff. But yeah, like, it's not taught, and it hasn't been for the last 70 years. And they were very receptive to it, and they loved the idea. And originally the idea was to just earn enough money to kind of pay off our mortgage. But obviously now, and when you learn about Bitcoin for the long run, the idea of selling it becomes a painful thought.
Yeah.
So we really don't want to do that. We're trying to find other ways of earning money and things, which is nice because it kind of makes you more entrepreneurial as well. But having that basket and that comfort nest behind us, knowing that if things get really bad and we've got something to fall back on, but also pushing you to become entrepreneurial and to think outside the box and to try and do other things as well, to try and hold it and stack more. There's two really nice gifts it's given us. So we thought, because of that, we should try and give back in a way that we can, not through a technological way or, creating some Lightning Network updates and things, but for actually combining it with the age-old marketing strategy, which is motor racing. And motor racing is really well respected in the advertising world, and the market for that is huge. In the British Touring Car Championships, do you know the business Halfords?
Yeah.
Yeah, they paid 800 grand to sponsor a British touring car. So
Jesus.
It's really highly respected, and it does a lot for brand awareness. So we were just thinking, why is Bitcoin isn't really benefiting from any of that? And it did for a small amount of time when there was a strike car with Jack Mallers and stuff. But they only did one race. It felt to me more like a PR stunt to gain attention for the driver. If they really cared about it, they'd be setting that team out for years and years to come. And that's kind of what we want to do now. And at the moment, we're in a lower level championship, but it is our ambition, with the help of El Salvador as a country and hopefully the community and other Bitcoin related businesses, to push up into a championship called the Porsche Carrera Cup. And that one particularly because it has a TV viewership of 1.7 million. 400,000 spectators attend the series. To the live races, and they're all people in like a really high demographic. I think it's called ABC One. So they're all like, they've got disposable income.
Yeah.
And then the other thing as well about that championship that we like is it gets shared on the official Porsche social media accounts. So, for example, they've got like 11 million followers on Instagram. I think on their socials, they've got like a combined following of about 36 million across all of the platforms they use. So we've already got a reach, if we put Bitcoin Car in the Porsche Carrera Cup, of about 40 million people.
Wow.
Which is huge. And then on top of that, we're actually under an NDA agreement at the moment, but we have this driver who is about to feature on a TV show which gets 60 million viewers, and it airs in a couple months' time. So he's going to be our driver, and also a brand ambassador for the race team, and of course Bitcoin.
Awesome.
And based on people who have previously featured on the same show as him, they ended up coming out with between 1 and 6.5 million followers. So this guy could be massive.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about him is he's half Salvadorian as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible.
And he's already a professional racing driver. But what I like about this is that, influencers who come off kind of mainstream shows, they start shilling tooth whitening kits and all sorts of pointless crap.
Bullshit.
Yeah, all sorts of bollocks. But we've got him, they push the consumerism side, looking rich, like wasting money and stuff, which one thing I absolutely hate. But, we've got this guy on board. He's Salvadorian. He wants to not only support Bitcoin, but that also supports his country. So rather than him pushing pointless stuff, he's going to be advocating for Bitcoin. So we have the potential to reach millions of people with this project if we can get the supporters behind us. And it's become a full-time job now to try and bring in interest and sponsorship proposals and stuff. And we're really hoping to try and push up.
What do you need to make this happen to get into the Carrera Cup? Like, what is it that you have to do well in the racing? Is it you have to raise a certain amount of funds? Is it you need to give someone a hand job? Like, what do you have to do to get this to happen? Yeah,
so racing is about skill to an extent, but actually it's about money. It's, you can be the most skillful driver in the world, but if you haven't got any money, you are not going anywhere. And it's plain and simple. So for the Porsche Carrera Cup, we think we can probably do a whole year with a celebrity driver, with the support of El Salvador, their flag on the car, and hopefully a retweet from the president. We're actually, we've been invited to El Salvador in September on an official visit. So they are fully on board with us. And yeah, we're really excited to go and hopefully meet Bukele himself. But we
be so cool.
Yeah, no, that would be crazy. We estimate that it will cost between 300,000 and 500,000 to do 1 year in the Carrera Cup. But there is other options as well and other things we're looking at. And but like I said, if there is Bitcoin-related businesses, from a marketing point of view, if we can reach 40 million like Porsche Carrera Cup fans, potentially 6 million fans of the driver, and then have the president of El Salvador tweet about our team, that's another 3.9 million people. So in terms of increasing brand awareness of sponsors and their sales and their marketing, we have a huge, unique opportunity for anyone. And, we've got people out there that's another amazing thing about the Bitcoin community. We went on a podcast with Daniel Prince, and now he's reaching out to connections to see if anyone wants to support this. And, a few people from Twitter turned up to our last race, and now they're putting us in contact with people, and everyone's just helping. And I think people see the value in what this project could do. And you said earlier, like associating Bitcoin with something exciting, high octane, speed, something people are familiar with, and giving it that highly respected platform of motor racing, which is huge in the UK, could be amazing for it.
I'm sure it will be. And like you said, people like Princey and all these guys in the Bitcoin community, like it's about pushing this thing forward, not just, okay, we've got the greatest money, but we've got an opportunity to change the way society functions and to remove the psychopaths that are controlling the world and pushing it in a very dark and dangerous way. And, for a lot of us who are here, it's like we want to see real change. And so whatever it is that we can do, we'll do that. And that's unique to Bitcoin. You don't find that with any shitcoins. You don't find that in the legacy system. You don't find that anywhere else, because you have a shared vision of something that you truly believe is world changing and in such a positive way. So yeah, there'll be people listening to this thinking, yeah, this would be really fucking cool. We'd love to have the Carrera Cup happen. If you're listening and you think, yeah, I'd like this to happen, if there's any connections, anyone that you can push towards making this happen, then either contact me or contact Charles. And yeah, I'll put my thinking cap on as well, because I think this is a very unique opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, no, I feel really good about it. All the support we've had, the options that are becoming available and stuff. But now the only negative thing at the back of my mind, and lots of people in my team won't agree with this, but when this driver becomes famous, he's going to have like a lot of options open up for him. And he loves our family. He's actually raced with us before. He's coming to race with us in Anglesey, which is our next race. But when I'm just worried that he might be picked up by another race team or something. So we've got like a bit of a rocket now up our asses, and we're trying to move quick to actually give him this guaranteed position, because he's a very good driver. He's a very confident, an amazing brand ambassador, and I really want him to be involved in a Bitcoin team.
Is he orange-pilled?
Yes, to an extent he is. He is, to an
That's
extent.
what you need to do.
Yeah.
You need to ram those orange pills down his throat.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So we've been talking with the team. Do we get him signed up to a contract? And we're looking at it. But in terms of, like, you know, when you're friends with someone and you've got that close connection and you trust them, we've definitely got that. And we're 90% certain he'll go with us anyway. But that's just what we just need to make sure that we can get this Porsche available for him. So he's locked in, basically, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because that's someone who, you know, going to have millions of followers. There are millions of people who aren't directly orange pilled, like they're just normal people ready to be orange pilled. It's not like, you know, Michael Saylor's account where he's got 3 million Bitcoiners following him. This would be someone who's got 3 million non-Bitcoin people, who are primed to be, you know, orange pilled. So it's important to me that, but he is on board. It's looking good, and the fact he's Salvadorian and the country's backing us. But obviously, it's just a question of money and funding. But I'm sure we're going to get there. We've been, you know, reaching out to the universe and working hard, and we're pretty sure the cog is going to unload and we'll get there. So yeah, it is looking good.
Yeah, it will come. It will come. Hard work will pay off, and it's for a good cause. I do believe that if you keep trying to put good out into the world, if you keep trying to do what's right and you keep working hard, it will happen. And you've got all the Bitcoiners behind you. Like, anyone will do what they can to make it happen. So I'm sure this will happen. It's very exciting. I can't wait to see this on the screen and see that Porsche racing around. And
yeah, it's such a proud thing to look at. Even at the level now, with just 4 city cars with El Salvador's
the Citroens you've got.
Yes, the Citroen C1s. But yeah, even seeing them, and at our first race, we had the ambassador of El Salvador come, and yeah, it was really cool, really nice to be, because they obviously share the same values and ethos as us. So I feel just as proud displaying El Salvador's flag as I do the actual Bitcoin logo.
Yes, it's an amazing story. You have a country now that can orange pill other countries. And over time, it's a little bit like, the longer you've been in Bitcoin, the longer or the less you start talking about it to family and friends and that kind of stuff, because generally you get battered down. Everyone calls you an idiot and whatever else they want to call you. And you just think in the end, I've done my battle. I've tried to tell you how amazing it is, and now I'm going to stop. But what starts to happen is the numbers don't lie. So there comes a point where the people that you've now ignored for the last 2-3 years come to you and they go, this Bitcoin thing's moving. You're like, I told you to do that. But it's like 10 times more than. You're like, I told you that as well. Well, how do I get some? And that's what I think is going to happen with countries, because now things aren't looking quite so good as they were a couple of months ago. You know, that's fine. That's what Bitcoin does. But there will come a point where, you know, it might be a couple of years, but it will come a point where these other countries are going, well, hold on a second. We're getting fucked over here royally. we're, you know, all the purchasing powers of our citizens is just being eroded away. It's not really a fair system. Now I've looked into this, I've got a rough end of this deal. It's fucking terrible. And then you've got El Salvador, who have made this bold move, and it's done really well for them, and they've got more freedom and they're not getting fucked over as much. Why again are we not doing this? It's that first step towards everyone just waking up. And once you get countries on board, and no disrespect to El Salvador, but it's one of the smaller countries, people are paying attention, but very specific people are paying attention, and it's only one. But once that second country, third country, fourth country, fifth country sits down and that starts spreading, that's never going away. And I think it goes everywhere. And what's really exciting about it is that it's not ever going to be, well, never say never, but I don't think it's going to be the UK or Canada or Australia or America or any of these guys. I don't think it's going to be the European countries. I think it's going to be these smaller countries that have massive opportunity here to step up. And I want it to be, because I actually want the smug faces of these fucking dickheads who you see on the news who think they're so smart, but they're actually smarmy bastards who are stealing from everybody and destroying everybody's value. I want them to lose. I want these smaller countries to actually step up and become the powerhouses. And I think that's what's going to happen. So these next sort of 20 years are going to be remarkable, and it's all because, well, not all because, but a lot of it is because one country has stood up and gone, yeah, I've got some bollocks, I'm going to fucking do something about this. And that's amazing.
Yeah, the land of the brave, for sure. And, they're getting attacked from all angles right now. And I think, it's part of why the price is actually down at the moment, because obviously the IMF has been coming for them, the World Bank, the World Economic Forum. They all hate this so much.
I know.
They're currently in Davos, jetting around in private jets, telling us to eat, telling us what to eat. And, it's such a contradiction, and I just hate everything that's going on. And yeah, El Salvador makes us so proud, and that's why we wanted to represent them. And the initial plan was, because we actually thought it would be really hard to get in contact with a country and to, get them involved in our little race team. Mm-hmm. So our initial plan was to just put the flag on top of our cars, and then trailer them to their embassy in London and just put them outside and say, hi, what do you think of this? But actually, we've got a member of our team who actually speaks fluent Spanish, and he just called them up and told them about it. And they love the idea. He literally talks to the ambassador on a daily basis on WhatsApp now. And she is actually the person who introduced us to the Salvadorian racing driver. And after they attended our first race, she came with a small entourage of other people from the embassy. The embassy to the UK tweeted about us, and then that was retweeted by the Department of Tourism, the Department of International Relations, and the Office of Communication to the Presidency. And we also got retweeted by the official page of Bitcoin Beach, and we featured in 2 Salvadorian newspapers. So they're really backing us a lot. So to think, and then I think we'll get the presidential involvement when, hopefully, if we meet him in September, but then when he sees an actual beautiful looking Porsche, and driven by a celebrity and a proper, kind of well-organized operation, he's going to be fully involved. So it's really exciting and got a lot of potential. But yeah, I'm so excited to go there and actually spend some Bitcoin, which is not something I'd say usually.
Yeah. Well, it's very difficult in the UK, isn't it? Like, it's so cool what's happening over there. And like, I use Bitcoin every day just because I like doing it and I don't want to support any banks, and I just use it as much as I possibly can. But it's still very limited. Like, I still can't go down to the shop and use it. I still can't use it on buying petrol or whatever. Like, it's so frustrating because you want to be able to use this for everything all the time. I actually don't want to ever touch the slave notes. If I can avoid it, I'll try and never, ever touch them. But we're still kind of tied into all this bullshit because in the UK and in the EU, they just make it as close to impossible as they can to use. And this is goes back to my point before, is I actually want them to fucking fail. I actually want them to fail because they are so disgusting how they treat Bitcoiners. They're so disgusting how they hold back this world-changing technology. I want it to go to El Salvador. I want it to go to the African countries. I want it to go to places where they're going to leapfrog. And then I want to see the Europeans go, oh, fuck, we made a big mistake here. We made a really, like we did when we sold all our gold, and like we do with everything, we fucked it up royally, and they deserve it. They really deserve it.
Not only are they fucking over their own people, they even fuck over member countries, because they all have to use the same monetary policy, but all of the countries have different requirements, and that's why, like Italy has been in an eternal debt cycle. An eternal recession, and Greece got shafted, and Bulgaria. It's like me and you going on a train, and we both need to go to a different place, but the train only goes to one place where I need to go. And that's the situation for Germany. It's doing good for Germany, but all the other countries, it's the worst idea I've ever heard of.
It depends what your goal is, I suppose.
Yeah. But putting everyone on the same track when they all need to go in different directions, because, if you need to be able to change your monetary policy to manage like reduced imports or exports and stuff. And I just don't see how it works at all. There's a good book called The Death of the Euro, which kind of explains it a bit, but I actually found it quite difficult to understand, because obviously I'm supposed to be a scientist. But it just doesn't make sense to me at all.
Well, because it doesn't. That's because it doesn't. Even people who really think that they understand the fiat financial system, like, generally there's massive gaping holes in their understanding of it, because if you really understand it, you just go, that's fucking stupid, isn't it? Exactly. That's really fucking stupid. What? You're actually making everyone poor. You're actually, every time you change the monetary policy, it's worse for people. Like, that's fucking retarded. Why don't you just go for something where you have a unit of account that doesn't change, and so that people can like really understand and measure value, and then people know where they stand and they can save properly, and things get cheaper over time, and it's better for people, and we have a more prosperous society. Wouldn't that be a better idea? Yeah, and it's easier. Oh, right. Well, we'll fucking do that then. Like, it's not complicated. Like how it should be. It really isn't. And that's why, like, you can explain Bitcoin to children. Yeah. You really can. Like, it's so simple. It's almost like the people who think they understand finance the best actually find it the hardest to come round to Bitcoin. They're like, yeah, but that can't possibly work because you need inflation, you need that. And you're like, no, you don't. Like, you actually don't. I do think people will catch on, and these younger generations especially, one thing that's going to be really good is, like, as the meme warfare heats up, and as we see this meltdown and everyone is struggling more and more in the West, like everyone is seeing their shopping bill and their gas prices and everything go up, they're more stressed, they're more annoyed, and then you see like this little glimmer of hope from the Bitcoin community. I do think that, like, a good thing is the positivity, because, like I just went into there, like, it's so easy to go into this massive load of doom and how fucked everything is and how evil the current system is and blah blah blah. But it's like, what's actually probably a stronger message is, look at what we're doing, look at what El Salvador's doing, look at what this race team's doing, look at what's possible. You show that actually through all this darkness, there's something brilliant and something that can actually save people. I think that the Bitcoiners are starting to get scarily good at putting that message across. You see a tweet from the IMF or Christine Lagarde or whoever it is, whichever fuckwit of the day, and they just get wrecked. They get absolutely abused. And then you'll see like a little nugget of information, and anyone who is curious will go, oh, I'm going to have a look at this. And just one by one, these people are going to drop off and go, oh, I was scammed. Okay, there's this Bitcoin thing.
Yeah, man, it is crazy. The IMF must be shitting themselves at the moment. I mean, that's why they're really trying to go for it. Even Central African Republic, I think, because they're still kind of ruled by France in a way, and France obviously doesn't like that at all.
No.
And yeah, oh, it's weird times. But yeah, you're right. We need to focus on the positives, and there is a lot of them coming through. And yeah, the sad thing is, I think you kind of mentioned earlier, for a lot of people, it's the price of Bitcoin that determines when they get involved, because
Yes.
a lot of people are just waiting to try and make a big profit and get back into the fiat world and buy some Balenciaga trainers or something.
Yeah, some fucking stupid.
Yeah, some pointless shit. But the education's getting better, and yeah, the awareness of Bitcoin's improving all the time, with projects like the Race Team and El Salvador doing its thing, and podcasts like yours and Daniel Prince's and everyone else. And yeah, it's looking good. You're right. I think the future's bright, but there's definitely going to be more attacks made. And, these big organizations are very powerful. I kind of I do think Bitcoin's going to get to like silly money, but it's going to be a really painful path to get there. And we're going to come under some strong attacks, which will only affect the price, obviously, not the security or the hash power or anything of that nature. But they'll do something to scare off as many people as they can. So we need to really solidify our belief in it and, strap our balls in. What's your thoughts on kind of the future direction? I think big prices, but like a painful way there.
Yeah. There's a reason I don't show my face and I stay anonymous. I'm very concerned about it. I'm very, very concerned about what is going to happen. What is going to be the retaliation from the IMF and whichever other psychopath, pick. They are going to come after us. They have to. So it's a reason that I push so hard on the privacy stuff. Like, this podcast is very privacy and security focused, freedom focused, because as much as I want people to come in and buy Bitcoin, and it's really important so that they can store their value, I think more than that, it actually allows for freedom of speech, and it allows for people to take control of their lives again. And it's literally the best weapon that we have in the war that's coming, because every sat that you own, every sat that is private and in cold storage, that means that they can't acquire it.
Yeah.
That's really important, because they have a massive advantage, which is that they can create value out of thin air. So they can be acquiring this, they can be storing it, they can be doing whatever they want, and we won't necessarily know. So what you want is as many individuals to be storing this and to be as private as possible, because what I think they'll probably do is they'll come and make examples out of people, like they did with Ross Ulbricht. The poor guy is going to spend most likely the rest of his life behind bars. It's disgusting. That's probably what they're going to do, because we're probably going to all be terrorists and psychopaths and whatever else. Whatever label they want to throw at us will be that, because how dare we want better money? How dare we want a better method of value exchange? How dare we even think that we could own something and actually be happy? I think, I think that's probably the most important message, is whatever happens, it's going to be dark. The system either has to completely collapse, or they have to destroy everyone's life and extract and wring this out as long as possible.
Yeah.
And the average person is going to be literally starving to death. That's how that ends. Or they go to war with us. I don't really see a peaceful transition, because I don't think the people who are in control are ever going to let go of control. So yeah, the big message I push is be private. Use tools like Samurai, have cold storage, run your own node, use Tor, think about being private, try and acquire sats, not just through exchanges, although, most people do that. Try and do it so that if they do come for you, which they might, that you actually have something up your sleeve. It's sad to have to think about that, but you look back through history, you know, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, we're past that. That's not going to happen. Like things will be fine. We're just going to hyper Bitcoinize. But just look through history. You don't have to go far back to see how evil people can be.
Yeah, man. It's taken me a long time to realize the importance of that privacy message and being sovereign and storing your own coins. And like I said, I only actually started moving coins into cold storage yesterday. I always had some, but now like everything is going. I actually I liked the idea of interest and, you know, earning passive income, but now having learned like what the exchanges and things do, you know, what these loaning companies actually do with your coins, and they basically use fractional reserve bitcoins in a way, which is what made me move away from the normal system anyway. So yeah. I think what kind of worries me about what you've just said is, and I think the recent kind of events going on in the world have shown that the powers that be still have a strong hold over the people, and it's very easy for them to believe everything they're told and to do exactly what they're told. And yeah, I do feel like with the digital passports and IDs and things, they were testing us to see how far they can go. And if I was them, I think, we've had a resoundingly good result.
That was easy.
Yeah, it was. It's too easy, man. Yeah, and not to be controversial or anything about people's personal choices and things, but digital vaccine passports and losing medical autonomy are things that scare me, and how easily people will give it up. So, yeah, we've got an important job to do, you and me, and everyone else.
They'll not only give it up, but they'll give up the people that don't comply.
Yes.
So that is something that has been made so fucking clear over the last 2 years. It's part of the reason I don't go around orange pilling really anymore. I'll only choose people. If I meet someone, I go, this person's really fucking cool. Like, I really like this person. They're a freedom-loving, decent person. I'll orange pill them. But the normal person, no, I'm not going to let them know I have Bitcoin. I'm not going to let them know anything about it. I'm not going to bother. I'm not going to expose myself, because I've seen that, you know, with, like you're talking about with all the IDs and vax passes and all that sort of stuff. I really have been treated like a second-class citizen. I really have been treated like shit by people around me for standing up and saying no.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been... I'm like, you know, do what you want. Like, fucking inject it in your eyeballs if you want, mate. Like, it doesn't... I don't care. But don't tell me what I'm going to do. I'm fit. I'm healthy. I go to the gym. I eat well. I don't need this shit. So those people have really, like, ridiculed me, like, tried to out me. They would grass me up in 2 seconds. And so you start to understand that, like... And the funny thing is that they're not actually bad people. They're just normal people who are on autopilot, who, you know, they sit down, they watch the news, they're programmed. They are literally told what to think. And they're too busy, most of them, to actually think any deeper about things, like to really break things down and go, well, hold on a minute. You know, on one hand, I'm fighting so that women can have abortions. And I think that that's right, because it's their body, their choice, and it's their body, so it's their choice. But this fucking guy, Max, it's not his body, his choice. That's not right, because he's a super spreader. He is dirty. Yeah. And so you see that actually something that's such an easy, obvious, like logical step to make, they can't. And so when they're told your problems are because of Bitcoiners, if it wasn't for Bitcoin, the financial system wouldn't have collapsed. If it wasn't for Bitcoin, you wouldn't be paying £3 a litre at the petrol pumps. If it wasn't for Bitcoin, you wouldn't have lost your house and your business. If it wasn't for Bitcoin, we wouldn't have climate lockdowns and blah, 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 because the mining is so bad for the environment. And the sad thing is, they will believe it.
Yeah.
Unless the Bitcoiners do what we're doing and trying to do and like push. And I think like you have to actually not even get annoyed by it, but almost highlight the clownishness. You have to take the piss out of the stupidity of the leaders and like just how pathetic and how far they're reaching and how stupid the narrative is, like how easy it is to pick holes in this and meme that across to the younger generations, you should get a tipping point where they go, fuck, yeah. This is dumb.
It will come, definitely. Yeah, from the weird thing is, I obviously being in Fiat education and doing 4 years of science up to master's level, you'd expect me to be, first in the queue to the old vaccination centres.
Mm-hmm.
But I was actually working in a COVID lab with lots of people who had just graduated back like a couple of years ago now, which was actually a horrible job, and I would not recommend it. It was literally a huge money-making, work as fast as possible operation. But we'd all been taught what the clinical trial pipeline is and how much money it takes and how long it is. And we're actually told how it should be done and what the safety precautions are and all the procedures. And we know it on a deep level because we've spent the last 3 years learning about it all. But then all the people I was working with, they weren't questioning it and saying, every other drug I've learnt about has taken 10 years of safety testing and billions of pounds, but this one's just been released after maybe a year or two. There's no long-term information on it, but they were all happily lining up to go and get it. And I just found that really weird. And that's not even a conspiracy, is it? Like, that's just how the clinical trial drug discovery pipeline is. And that's the reason I give to people, to make sure they don't think I'm an absolute nutter. But I don't say, like I said to you earlier, I'm living my life doing the opposite of what big powers are telling me to do. But yeah, so it's kind of, this whole thing has put me off science in a way. And even in the early days when I was doing my undergrad, one of the lecturers said, if we find a drug that cures all the cancers in the world, but it can't be patented, it will just be thrown in the bin because no one will make money from it. So the science industry is all about making money, not really about putting people and health first. So it's been a weird time for me, actually, but glad to have found Bitcoin. And that is the only thing that gives me like positive vibes. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're feeling down, you can think, things are going to improve, and we've got this amazing tool to help us get there and put people back on a more grounded level.
And what does it bring? Like, you said, I'm stepping away from science because it's all about the money and not about looking after people. But what if we do find ourselves on this Bitcoin standard? Who's to say that you don't come back to it and say,
exactly,
well, actually, like, actual science and actual medicine and trying to help people and save lives and improve the world is awesome. Like, that's really fucking cool.
Yeah.
But,
sorry, bro, carry on.
No, go on. That was it. I was just
Yeah, in the Bitcoin standard, it talks about the La Belle Epoque, which was, the beautiful era, which is when humanity had their most, discovery after discovery. We've never had a time in history where we've made that many advancements, and that was when we were on a gold standard.
Yeah.
And obviously, like you said earlier, people saying the system relies on debt and inflation. Well, actually, we had the golden standard where there wasn't recessions every 10 years. Since we went on the fiat standard, we've had, I don't know how many more global monetary crises we've had on the fiat standard.
Every 10 years-ish, isn't it?
Than we did on the gold standard. There was only a few examples, which were just, not too strong on the history, but we've had many multiples more on the fiat standard. So the world is literally better on hard money.
Without question. There's no way around it. Things would be better. And so, I hope you come back to it, because it is something that is, it's incredible. Like, it's what moves the world forward. And you've obviously put a lot of time, a lot of proof of work there, spending the time to learn this stuff. So, it certainly isn't wasted, and it will be useful, just not in this current system. I had Self-Banked on here, really good friend of mine who's a doctor here in the UK, and we were talking, when was it, 6 months ago, 8 months ago. He was just about to be kicked out and no longer allowed to practice as a doctor because he refused to have the jab. They've gone back on that. They've revoked that and said, no, you can. But, this is a guy who is fucking good at what he does. He's one of the smartest guys I've ever met. Humble, lovely family man. And he was literally like just about to lose his job that he'd been practicing for, 20 years. And he was actually going to move to El Salvador. That was his plan. He was like, well, I don't know what to do. I don't know what else I would do. All my life I've been a doctor. And he was like, well, what I'm going to have to do is just sell up and fucking leave with my family. Like, I don't know what else to do. And so when you hear stories like that, it makes it very clear. It's like, this is not about helping people, because if you wanted to help people, you would have the best people available doing the job. And if they choose to not have a jab that isn't actually proven to work and something that doesn't really affect them and it doesn't actually help the spread or any of the bullshit that they've been told, and they know that because the data's there, it's like, I understand why you'd want to step away. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's like, you found your Bitcoin, build this race team, you do the Porsche Cup, you spread the Bitcoin message, and we fucking take over the world. The psychopaths win, and then you go back to it and do some really cool stuff and save some lives.
Absolutely, man. That's the way. You've got to prioritize, don't you? And just push the most important things. But Bitcoin is actually something I feel passionately about, and I'm not really someone who likes attention or being in front of people or anything. But now I'm actually, back in the day, I would have never wanted to come on the podcast before. And
you didn't want to.
Yeah, well, that's true, actually. I actually tried to make... Yeah, you're right. I tried to fob you off with some other team members. But yeah, like, when I was studying science and I had to do a presentation, I was literally like, my body would be shaking. Like, my leg was, oh my God, I don't even know how to describe it. I didn't even know my leg could shake in such a way, but that's how scared and timid I was. But now to find something that I care about and I want people to learn about, and it draws a lot of attention to me, obviously, like putting the Bitcoin logo on our whole race team, and people walking by and some stopping and chatting to you and other crowds of people looking at it. Some people actually giving you dirty looks.
I'm sure.
Yeah, it draws in the attention, which is something I didn't like, but I'm learning to kind of embrace it, and it's even making me a better, more confident person because it's actually a worthwhile thing.
It's a brilliant thing.
Yeah,
it's something you can be really fucking proud of, unless we're all completely wrong and we're just like retards and we just don't see it and everyone else is right. But I don't think that's the case. But if we are right, and I'm certain as I could possibly be on this, we are right, you should be so proud of it. It's like you're doing, I think, the most important thing that you could possibly do on the planet right now is to help this movement and push it forward. And I'm the same. Like, I don't like having attention on me, especially for like normie things. Like, it's not, because I don't feel proud of it. It's like, people want the attention of, like you were saying, like, oh, I've got a pair of Balenciagas, I'll put that on fucking Instagram and make everyone jealous. Like, what a cock. Like, why that's not a cool thing. Like, that's not, why do you want attention? But a lot of people do. But this kind of attention is like, you're actually changing the world. Like, you're actually making it a better place. And so you should be proud and stand up. And if people do give you a dirty look, just think, well, you sad individual. You just like, you don't understand. You're looking down your nose at something you don't understand. You just have to feel sorry for them and have fun staying poor, basically.
Yeah. I remember one of the first times we went out with one of the fully wrapped cars, and there was this guy walking his dog, definitely a boomer, and he just stopped and, oh mate, the filthiest look I've ever seen. He was so like angry by it. But he's now thinking about Bitcoin, so hopefully he invested a few weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a bit confusing. So yeah, I'm just going to try and embrace it. And there's always haters in everything you do, isn't there?
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I appreciate what you said. It's nice that you appreciate what we're doing. And I think, it's amazing to be involved in a project where you actually get support and kindness from people. And that's why I'm so drawn to this community as well, like I'm sure you are.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you didn't want to come on the show I pushed you because I knew this would be a good conversation. It's normally the quiet ones who have the best chats with. I've really enjoyed it. And, I would just say to anyone who's listening, go and support, go and donate. Think of anyone that you can who could possibly help push this idea forward. I will do the same. And yeah, I've really enjoyed the conversation. Massive respect for you and the team who have put this together. And just, if there's anything that I can do, just let me know. I will try. It's an exciting time. And yeah, there's going to be hard times ahead, but we'll win.
Exactly. Yeah, well, I know you like to stay anonymous, but me and you are on the same level. I think in real life we'd be great friends. So if you ever want to come to a race, I'd love to invite you. You've done such a good job on your podcast, and every time I just enjoyed listening to you speak, man. It's been really, really cool, and I appreciate the opportunity too. And I'd love you to meet a couple other guys in the team as well, if you ever would like to, on the podcast or in person.
Thank you, mate. Well, yeah, I'd love to meet you too. Maybe sit and have a couple of whiskeys or something.
Nice.
And talk cars and everything else. But yeah, it's been a pleasure. And if you just stay on the line, just so that we make sure we get the recording and all that sort of stuff. And you're welcome on here anytime, as are any of the other team members.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Cheers, mate.